I was called out by StrikeNinja. OMG, guys, my life has changed forever. Oh my god, he's called me out. He's called me out. But yet at the same time, I have to defend my honor. Guys, welcome back to the channel. Make sure to like, sub, and comment. I am doing a video in the vision of a StrikeNinja video because I'm here to basically put him in his place a little bit. So he called me out on his video the other day. He called me some guy. I'm not some guy, Strike. You know me. We've done videos together. We have talked about very personal things, okay? Like that you like orange juice instead of milk. That's very personal stuff.
This contradicted a lot of what he had to say in the last 2 years and essentially did actually pretty much throw all that buildup out the window. After the Gibb fight, after the Nate fight, after the Ben fight, and even after the Woodley fight, KSI did say that he wanted to fight Jake Paul, and he was going to immediately after his concerts in the Wembley Arena in 2022.
So this first point on KSI throwing the hype out the window about not boxing anymore, I'm sad to say, Strike, you're wrong. See, if we go back to November of 2019, after his post-fight ring interview and the video he did with E! Online News, I'll put the clips right after I talk. He specifically had this attitude of, I'm putting boxing on the back burner. I want to focus on music. So this completely debunks, it completely rejects, and it's a complete hands down to what everyone is saying about after JJ saw Gibb fight and lose to Jake, he got scared and he's afraid of Jake. Before Jake even fought Gibb, before KSI even saw Jake fight, he had this attitude of wanting to focus on music, on wanting to do other things. His whole point is, and his whole thing is, I don't want to be known as KSI the YouTuber, KSI the boxer. I want to be put in different avenues and do different things. KSI was ready to move on from this. KSI's whole plan wasn't to be a 10-0 record. He wanted to fight Jake Paul, Logan Paul, and then fight a pro boxer. His manager said all of this, and then leave the sport altogether. That was a pretty solid plan. Obviously, Jake ducked KSI, and so he had to fight Logan, and so things got switched around. But the point is that from the very beginning, this has always been KSI's attitude about music comes first, then boxing.
Done. I'm on to the next thing, yo. Hey, you can do MMA. I know, yeah, with the wrestling and stuff.
And when would KSI have any time to have a proper camp to fight Jake Paul? When he did the first album, which covered all of 2020, and then he worked on the second album in 2020 and 2021, and then Jake was taking all these other fights. It's like, at the end of the day, you have to look at the facts, and you have to look at the statistical videos that prove that KSI, from 2019 to now, has always put boxing on the back burner and has wanted to focus on music, and he will not stop pursuing music until all of those things are complete. And his tours, all that just got pushed back and back and back. So that is my, I guess, counter-argument to your first point.
First comment reads, I think people are forgetting that Logan fought tougher opponents than Jake, and they were actual boxers, not a single punch combo, a wrestler and a basketball player. And I do think this argument is getting old. Tyron Woodley, I don't think people should be really treating Tyron Woodley like he's some nobody. He's really not. Tyron Woodley has built his career off of pretty much his overhand right and has pretty much broken guys with granite chins, and Jake Paul was still able to tank an overhand right. Speaking of that, KSI fought Logan, who barely threw any rights in their whole fight. In the Mayweather fight, Logan Paul was, pretty much coming into the fight to try and weight bully Mayweather. In the early rounds, Mayweather was just toying him, trying to set the mood of the fight, and it wasn't until later on where he was actually trying to hurt Logan.
So let's be clear here. Logan Paul has definitely fought tougher opponents than Jake Paul, especially before the Tyron Woodley fight. He fought KSI and he fought Floyd Mayweather. KSI, while not the best boxer, was still able to go toe-to-toe with Logan Paul, take Logan's shots, and basically be, I think, an equal to Logan Paul in a lot of ways. And I think KSI's had the mentality that Logan had, but Logan was technically better than JJ, but he still managed to do 2 full fights, 6 rounds, 10-ounce gloves, no headgear, 12-ounce gloves, take big punches, take big shots, and have 2 rough and tough competitive fights. And then he fought Floyd Mayweather, and I mean, there isn't any argument for that. And yes, I know Logan weight bullied him, and Mayweather was toying around and he said the fight was fake, but it was not fake. He was clearly trying to knock him out. You cannot say that the best boxer of our generation is a lesser opponent than Tyron Woodley. And yes, I know Tyron Woodley is not a joke, and I don't think people should take him lightly, but we also shouldn't hype him up. At the end of the day, he is a MMA fighter, that this was his first boxing fight. When Logan fought KSI had already fought once. When he fought him a second time, KSI still had more time. Logan fought Floyd, and Floyd was, boxer way longer than than Logan Paul had ever been. So at the end of the day, Logan Paul has fought tougher opponents than Jake Paul, in my opinion. It's not a factual statement, but that's just my opinion. And yes, Jake fought Deadly and Gibb, and I mean, those were two terrible people who didn't train and who was overhyped, and then he fought not a single punch combo, and if anything, the Tyron Woodley fight was very similar to KSI versus Logan Paul 2, where Jake was KSI and Tyron Woodley was Logan, and the one that had the lesser technique won because they had more heart and more will to win. So in that sense, you could probably compare and say that the KSI versus Logan Paul 2 fight was very equal to Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul. And I know Logan Paul does not have the power that Tyron Woodley has, but at the end of the day, let's not hype Tyron Woodley's power up too much, because it only works so well because he was able to do it in MMA, and you can do things in MMA that you can't do in boxing. And that's what people have to remember about that one knockout power punch. And Logan Paul still landed a beautiful uppercut and 2 illegal hits on KSI. He got back up, and he got technically better, and he weathered that storm. And Tyron Woodley's punch was not a clean punch. Logan Paul's punch was a clean uppercut and then 2 clean shots to the back of the head. So yes, I do think Logan Paul has faced tougher opposition, and I think is not like at the same level of power. But let's not downplay Logan Paul's power and what he can do. He can knock out a lot of people, including Tyron Woodley. I know everyone's like, Logan Paul does an arm punching, but when he gets really technical and he can really go at it, he's a killer in there. The Tyron Woodley fight makes, I think, Jake on par with them, but I really don't think we should say that Logan has fought lesser competition or KSI has fought lesser competition. Because at the end of the day, I think that, it's only now with the Tyron Woodley fight is Jake equal. Because before then, I think Logan and KSI had tougher fights, better opposition, and had shown off more of what they could do than Jake did.
Could be true, but there's no evidence. Again, that's a baseless argument.
You're forgetting KSI never stopped training, and you say this is a baseless argument, and I feel like this is a way to kind of shut up people. But in reality, it's not a baseless argument, because we have verbal proof through the entire UK scene, and we have video footage, which you wanted.
Mileage, innit? Gotta do what you gotta do, innit?
No, but Tottenham are looking dangerous this season, man.
Yeah.
They're attacking everything.
Kane, bro.
Yeah, someone's done a mad thing.
So yeah, this is a common injury for boxers.
Of KSI's hand injured because of sparring, and then we see, I'll have the clip up while I'm talking, of his strength and conditioning coach basically saying, oh, you were sparring and this and that. So there is actual video proof. I don't know what else you need. I don't know why you reject this claim. At the end of the day, you have to admit KSI has been training, and you're not going to get worse or better at something if you continue to do it consistently and you're working with the best of the best. KSI's only gotten better since 2019, and using just logic and common sense, you have to admit that KSI wouldn't have gotten worse. He would have gotten better since 2019.
In the first fight, Logan Paul was a better fighter. KSI wasn't even able to throw a proper combo properly. And in the second fight, Logan Paul, I guess, was scared to exchange with KSI. So ultimately, his aggressiveness that won him the fight, not his skill. The next guy, he talks about Logan's uppercut. Pretty much KSI was able to tank it and pretty much barely win the fight. And he also thinks that Jake Paul's power isn't as great as people say it is. I responded to that comment by saying Jake hits harder than Logan, which is pretty much true. Tyron Woodley even confirmed that Jake does have some heavy hands, and Logan barely threw any rights against KSI, and he pretty much used the argument that Jake has knocked out people that don't know how to box. Again, the whole fight, Tyron Woodley, he's always been this one-punch power kind of guy, and he was respecting Jake Paul's power.
I do think KSI's skill did win him the fight in a couple of ways, especially when he used his jab. When he used head movement, there's points when he would make Logan, throw a jab, and then it would be just a feint or whatever. So I do think KSI's skill, not in the whole 100% way, but I think a good chunk of it was because KSI's skill was just a lot better. And was able to do a lot of body shots to Logan and win on points there as well. Especially in round 5, he was winning a lot more on points than he was in the previous rounds, even though he was less aggressive. Logan didn't throw rights against KSI, so there's this.
But not when he's in the danger zone. That is a
And there's this.
Let's check in now.
And there's, I could just go on. I proved you wrong. And Logan Paul made Floyd Mayweather's ear bleed. So, that seems like a pretty powerful puncher to me. Yes, I know Logan is a arm puncher more than a full-on puncher, but I do think that Jake Paul is not as powerful as people say he is. I'm not denying that he doesn't have power, because I think he does. I just don't think he's as much as the hype says he is.
His opponents didn't throw any punches. Again, if you want to keep that argument, you got to keep that same energy with KSI. I can't remember a single right hand that Logan threw against KSI. He did throw multiple jabs, but didn't even bother setting up for a cross or anything. So if you want to keep using that argument, you got to keep the same energy with Logan.
And the next thing is that, for me at least, it's like from a technical standpoint, Logan Paul showed more technique than any of Jake Paul's opponents, and threw more, especially in the first fight. Obviously, with the Tyron Woodley fight, it was very similar to how Logan fought in the second fight. And again, I think that KSI fought Joe Weller, who, yes, he didn't throw, but with Logan Paul, both fights, even though in the second fight, Logan didn't throw a lot and they gassed out in the first fight, he still threw some pretty heavy, hard shots at KSI. And I do think Jake has only had one fight where he's taken one big punch, and he almost lost that fight. So, yes, I keep that same energy, but we have to keep the same energy for both sides, that both guys have not really fought someone that's come toe-to-toe with them, that, has thrown big punches at them, and they've thrown big punches back. So it's pretty even there, and I hope we can all admit to that.
This comment is from some guy that says it's not a baseless argument, which I don't understand why. It is a baseless argument. Saying that KSI and Jake are on the same level without proof is a baseless argument. Now, the argument about him taking big hits and being able to keep going, the only big hit that I can really think of was the one behind the head. That one, it probably would have affected his performance. But again, we're not just going to act like Jake Paul hasn't defeated Tyron Woodley. He took an overhand right, which pretty much he left himself open after throwing the lead hook. Tyron Woodley caught him with the overhand right, and he was able to tank it. And even though he was kind of saved by the ropes, maybe it could have been a knockdown, I wouldn't even be so sure if KSI and Woodley had a fight. I'm not even sure if KSI would be able to tank Woodley's overhand right. That would be, a bit of a stretch for me, pretty much. So this argument, I just don't understand it. KSI knew exactly what to do to make Logan uncomfortable, and it worked. KSI actually did not know what to do. In fact, he was confused when Logan looked, he was pretty much running the whole fight. KSI was confused. He even said it himself on the Impulsive podcast.
And it's not a baseless argument, because I gave examples which you chose to ignore, which I said KSI shown he can jab better than Jake and has better head movement and cardio. He can also take big hits and keep going. KSI knew exactly what to do to make Logan uncomfortable, and it worked. And Jake has had so many fights to look back on that he would know exactly what to do. And I think that comparing the KSI of the second fight to the Jake of the current fight, they seem, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, this isn't a factual statement. In my opinion, I think Jake and KSI are closer in technical standpoints than we know, especially, we don't know what his skill level is at now. Now, if I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong, but I think that based off the Tyron Woodley fight, yes, Jake can do combinations, but he would get very sloppy and very lazy, and he did stuff that even JJ doesn't do, which is jabbing with his head down, and having really poor head movement, and honestly doing stuff that KSI did in the second fight, or it looked similar to what KSI was doing. You don't think... Come on, Strike, come on. KSI took a massive uppercut and an illegal uppercut, 2 punches to the head, took 1 minute to recover, and came back with better technique and has the will to win. It's about if you want it more. And KSI and Jake Paul are 2 people that are motivated, that are hungry, and that want it. And those people can take big punches. And if anyone doesn't think KSI can take Woodley's hits, you're kind of a bit of an idiot. At the end of the day, he took 1 good punch from Woodley, and he nearly lost that fight. He was over and done with. Same thing you could say about KSI against Logan Paul, but even then, I think KSI got even technically better, whereas Jake just got technically worse. I think I would be happy if we all agreed that KSI and Jake Paul both can take big hits, have taken big hits in both of their fights, and we shouldn't underestimate them. Now, I know what you're saying about KSI was confused and whatnot, but in other interviews, he has stated that he knows that Logan Paul doesn't like it when constant pressure is being put on, and you can go back to the post-fight interview where he said, the constant pressure is what won me the fight, constantly in his face, giving him no room to breathe, and creating these weird angle punches that were very unorthodox, and he knew that Logan hated that. And when KSI was like, do you know the pace of a fight? And Logan was like, what's that? And then we saw how much of a pace KSI was setting, and Logan was so uncomfortable with that. So that's what I mean by that. And I think the interviews and the footage backs me up. So at the end of the day, I think I've proven a lot of your points wrong, and I think at the end of the day, you should not call me out. And if you're gonna call me out, say my name, Strike. Put respect to my name. All in love, obviously. I'm not trying to start a super beef or, but if it comes to that, it comes to that. But at the end of the day, I think I've proven you wrong. I've made my case. Like, sub, and comment, and see you in the next video.